This is the US Open at Shinnecock Hills, and we're coming to you live on Juneteenth, which was explained to me by our colleague, the beautiful Gabby Herzig, as the national holiday to commemorate the end of slavery here. Now, unfortunately, Gabby can't be with us tonight, so I'm joined as ever by Brian Keogh, the only journalist in the press room who has never read Hamlet, but has smoked a few.
To thine own self be true, Paul.
Brian, I want to start with an email that dropped early this morning from the Rules Committee, shortly after the commencement of play. Joachim Niemann was assessed, this is what it said, Joachim Niemann was assessed 2 penalty strokes for throwing a club on the 6th hole during round 1. This act was determined to be serious misconduct under Rule 1.2b. Let's start with Joachim Niemann, Brian. Who is he?
27-year-old from Chile, and he's a former world number 1. He plays on the LIV. He got in because he was in the top 3 on the LIV Order of Merit this year. He's won 2 PGA Tour events, went to LIV in 2022. The guys on LIV are saying, this guy is the best player in the world, he's not getting world ranking points. 21 wins around the world. And, he's a super player. He really is a dynamic, lovely golfer. Really is.
Right.
Super.
And he was drawn for the 2 opening rounds to play with?
Shane Lowry.
Right. And what happened? What happened, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, we watched Shane finish off his first round, and Joachim finish off the first round on Thursday as much as they could after the fog delay. Niemann got back, he was a couple over, and he got his round back with a couple of birdies. And then it was getting very dark, and they were on the 6th hole. Niemann had fought his way back, was playing well, and he hit one straight out over the fence into the other property. Reloaded, out of bounds, reloaded, hit another one out of bounds. So then he's steaming at this stage, hits his 5th shot off the tee into the sandy stuff on the left-hand side in the fescue. Goes up, there's a bit of a reaction from Niemann, and then he lays up basically, lashes it down the fairway, very annoyed. Hooter goes, and he has to go in, and that's it.
That's it. End of round 1.
End of round, and then 6:35 this morning I went out to actually watch Shane and the rest of them finish off the round.
And they started. What hole were they on?
So they were on the 6th. They were on the 6th hole.
Oh, they actually on the 6th.
Yeah, he was on the 6th hole because he had.
Okay.
He was about to play his 7th shot into the green.
Okay.
Because Shane Lowry's manager said he's playing the 7th shot in here, and he spun it back off the front of the green.
Okay.
Knocked it up, made a 9. We thought.
Okay.
And shot 76. We thought.
Right. Now he finishes the round, and then they'll back out pretty soon after, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it was 13 minutes or something like that. Something like that, 13, 14 minutes. It wasn't very long. It was basically straight back out again. Straight back out again.
And what's interesting here is that there was no video footage of what had happened. No journalist had seen it, and Niemann was only just going out for that 2nd round when the penalty was announced, and he was told by the rules officials that he was being given a penalty for what he had done on the hole the night before.
Yeah.
So Gabby Herzig headed out to the 6th fairway and found a volunteer, Tristan Chang, who was marshalling the hole and had witnessed it. Then Gabby posted what she'd seen on Twitter. You've got it there, Brian.
Yeah, she said, just talked to volunteer Tristan Chang, who witnessed Joachim Niemann's club throw, cost him a 2-shot penalty. Suddenly it's a 78. She said, after hitting 2 balls OB, Niemann tried to get free relief from fire ants to no avail, from where his 3rd drive ended up in the fescue. He got visibly angry and kicked the white flag that another volunteer used to mark his ball, the little things they put down to show you where your ball's gone. Got visibly angry, kicked the white flag, continued to kick around the sand. Then he proceeded to chuck his iron from the fescue. He told us later it was a wedge, approximately 50 yards to the very edge of the course on the right. He was on the left-hand side. Almost did not walk back for the club until a police officer delivered it to him. There's police guys with every pretty impressive throw, Chang said.
So a lot went on, it's fair to say.
A lot went on. He was steaming.
Now, when he finished his 2nd round, he was brought into the interview to explain what had happened. And in fairness to him, He held his hands up.
Yeah, he fessed up. I mean, he did just sort of try to explain extenuating circumstances and this and that, and people throw clubs and get annoyed, and I was steaming and blah, blah, but I shouldn't have done it. I hold my hand.
And that's true. They do throw clubs.
Yeah, they do. They do all sorts of things out there that they shouldn't do. There's a new code of conduct at the majors this year. You know, at the Masters you saw Sergio, you know, smash a tee marker and do all sorts of things, get spoken to and get a warning. Now, we don't know.
He didn't get a penalty, did he?
No, he didn't get a penalty, but he got. I think he got a couple of warnings. So it depends on the major and what way they want to implement it. This was left up to the committee, the championship committee, to decide what they wanted to do under that rule that you quoted earlier. Yeah, and they decided. Okay. 2-shot penalty.
Okay, now a couple of points on this, Brian. Let's give credit to Gabby. For going out and finding out and telling us what exactly had happened, because there was going to be no sugarcoating about this once she had actually found out. Let's give credit to Niemann, who shot 5 under in this morning in the second round, and is the only player here to make the cut with an 11 on his card.
3 over par he is, tied for 46th. I mean, unbelievable effort. And I was thinking this might help Shane along, and Shane was playing well as well. You know, he was getting himself back under the cut line.
But let's also give credit to the Rules Committee, who've laid down a marker here that this sort of behaviour will not be tolerated.
Yeah, this is what all the governing bodies want to do, and the people that run the majors, they want, you know, good behaviour from the players.
And that has to be a good thing.
Yeah, well, they're trying to sell these things to big-time advertisers, aren't they, as well? It's all about integrity and behaving yourself.
That's what the game is supposed to be about.
There's kids out there, and you have to say, look, this is not the way to go.
Okay, Brian, we've had a correspondence from several viewers, mixed, it has to be said, on the show so far. It's urinals, not urinals. Now, that's a reference to our preview on Thursday and our chat with Padraig Harrington, who exclusively revealed why the urinals at Shinnecock were the best in the world. Okay?
Noted.
Okay, another one here. Have a bet on Schrodinger's cat in the 322 at Redcar tomorrow. That's another reference to our chat with Padraig. This is garbage. Where's Conor McKeown? That's
from Conor, is it?
That's definitely aimed at you, Brian.
I think that's from Conor.
That's definitely aimed at you, Brian. And an interesting text about something we left out on last night's show. Here's the text. No mention of the world's number one's struggles, with a surprise emoji. Okay, let's start with that one, Brian. Tell us about yesterday, round 1, and the struggles of the world number one, Scottie Scheffler, who, lest we forget, is trying to complete the career Grand Slam this week.
Well, struggles, okay. He shot 72. It's not like he shot 172. I mean, it wasn't a bad score. He actually did well to shoot 72, considering he hit it so well off the tee. He only missed 2 fairways, but he only hit 9 greens, and that was the problem, you know. So he was struggling to get it. It was all on a short game, didn't get it up and down, battled away, shot 72, and then he spent an hour and a half on the driving range after the round with his coach, Randy Smith.
And the round is 5.5 hours.
There were nearly 6 hours out there.
Nearly 6 hours. So after a 6-hour round, he's gone out to the range with Randy Smith as coach.
Yeah, and they're working on his left-hand grip, got a bit too strong. That was what they were blaming for that. And Randy Smith is showing him how to grip the club, and they're discussing it. And as Scheffler tends to be, you know, bordering on getting a little bit annoyed, you know, animated, you know, as it were, you know. So he sorted it out anyway today, and it wasn't as windy today. And played well.
So Scottie and Rory are playing on the same side of the draw. So they were early yesterday, late today. And as Rory was heading down the front nine, they're playing on opposite sides of the course. So as Rory was heading down the front nine this afternoon, Scottie was heading down the back nine. So I decided to take our viewers' advice and tag along. Now, I got some clips here. Here's Scottie having a quick goo at his phone as he arrives on the tee. Here's his position on the leaderboard. He was 2 over par for the tournament, tied 35th, and 9 shots behind the leader, Wyndham Clark. And here's what's interesting, Brian. World number one, going for the career Grand Slam, and as he hits the tee shot and walks down the 10th, his first of the round, he is followed by Smiley Kaufman, who's doing on-course commentary for NBC, and Amelia Doran, I think they say over here, from Sirius XM. the radio commentator. But I'm the only writer who was interested in what Scottie, or at least following him off the tee. What does that say about us, or what does that say about him?
It says a lot about us and a lot about him. I think both. It kind of reminds me of when Tiger was around and Rory was coming up and going to be world number one at the Honda. He was going to win the tournament.
When was that? Back in?
Yeah, I mean, what is it? 2012, somewhere around then. Somewhere around that time. And Rory's going off the front nine, and Tiger's already on the back nine, and you could see from the clubhouse the two sides of the course, on either side of a big lake, and there's 1,000 people following Rory down the first hole and the second hole, and you looked over to the other side of the course, and there was about 5,000 people following Tiger Woods. So there's a little bit of.
Oh, you were there?
I was there. Yeah.
Oh, right, great.
Yeah, Rory won the.
Isn't that interesting?
He held off Tiger.
So what we're saying essentially is, Rory is Tiger and Scottie is the young Rory.
Yeah, he's charismatic in the way he plays, but he hasn't got. There isn't that graw, is there, for Scottie compared to Rory? Amongst the kids.
Stardust.
Yeah, he just has that. What do they call it?
Office.
He's box office, as people like to say.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
right.
Rory. Yeah.
So Scottie birdies the first, almost birdies the second, and he walks to the 12th tee box where Gavin McKee is standing with his grandfather just beneath the grandstand. So I'm interested now in this young kid from New York, and I ask him, who's your favourite golfer? And he says, Rory McIlroy. And you know what? We high-five.
You give him the whole high-five? Good man yourself. Okay.
Okay, Brian, now when I'm out with Scottie, you're out with Rory. Tell us what you saw.
Yeah, so I mean, Rory played well on the front nine, 200.
A tale of two nines.
A tale of two nines,
yeah.
Definitely a tale of two nines. Yeah, he was 200 par, actually playing the ninth hole, and he had a 6-footer with a lot of break on it, which he missed. But he was, very happy going to the back nine, and it was still blowing 20 miles an hour steadily. 20 gusts. 10th hole, massive drive straight down the middle, too close to the green, in a bit of a quite near a sort of a sprinkler head. He thought it was a bit soft. He says, I better take this clean, pick it clean. He thins it straight over the back of the green. Bogey, dead.
Yeah.
Par 3, 11th, very difficult par 3, toughest hole on the course.
Yeah, that was interesting. So I was there, I watched that. We were both there actually, because that's when I met up with you again. I'd run back out to see Gavin, the young kid, to see was he still there, because his hero was about to arrive at the 12th tee. I went to play it, and you look down from the 12th onto the 11th tee.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. So obviously Rory bogeyed 10, which means he's playing third.
Yes.
So the two boys, I think it was
Aberg.
Was it Aberg first, and then Fleetwood. Anyway, they both were
found
short.
the sand.
They both found the sand.
Aberg was in the sand. I think Fleetwood stopped on the grass, just
rolled back.
Rolled back down.
Rolled back.
Rory said,
so they're both short.
Yeah.
And we wondered whether that would influence Rory, and I don't know whether it did or not, but he hit it over the green.
Yeah, which is absolutely dead.
Which is absolutely dead.
Yeah.
So now he's a difficult chip back up. It rolls past, and he misses the putt back.
Yeah. Another bogey.
Another bogey. Then he walks across to the 12th tee, and I could actually feel the fizz going out of the little boy, young Gavin, given he'd witnessed him bogeying both the 11th, the 10th and the 11th, because you can see the 10th from there as well. But anyway, I got a great picture of him, and I texted the photograph of him as Rory was teeing down to 12th. But it didn't get much better for Rory after that, because he bogeyed 12 as well.
He bogeyed the 12th as well, missed the green sort of long left as well. So it's not all of a sudden, he was from flying along, suddenly, that's Shinnecock Hills for you. You just said he was a little bit too aggressive on the 11th, and a little bit maybe too aggressive, and pulled it a bit on the 12th. And you're sort of thinking, well, this, and they were making mistakes. Aberg was making mistakes. Fleetwood was making mistakes, and then on the 13th. Typical Rory McIlroy, he almost holds a second shot from about 108 yards, finished about that far from the hole. Tap in birdie. And then the 14th, he hadn't missed a fairway all day until the 14th, and he still made birdie, hold like a 40-footer. So that's just.
So you think it's going the other way now?
That's the box office element.
So you think
of
it's
Rory.
going?
You think it's going the other
around.
way? Here he goes again, and then he comes to the 15th, and of course, and he went over the green and chipped through the green into the bunker, double bogey, and you're thinking, so. He's won over for the round. He parred his way in anyway.
Right.
Long story short, 71.
And in good form, given.
No panic.
Yeah, no
7
panic.
back.
a little bit disappointed, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a reminder for him, I think, that, look, let's just keep doing the strategy is hit it in the middle of the green, take your chances from 25 feet, try and hit the par fives, and just avoid making the big mistakes, because this place is going to get harder and harder over the weekend. Par is your friend, etc., etc.
Etc., etc. And Scottie then, who actually played quite well, who seems to have
he
found
obviously
something.
found it because he only missed 3 greens today. It wasn't as windy, in fairness. It wasn't as windy today. 3 birdies, 1 bogey. Could have held a few more putts. 32 putts, but tied for 11th.
So he started 2 over, finishes on
level par.
Level par.
Beside Rory McIlroy, level par.
Right.
They're both tied for 11th.
But they're not drawn together.
They're not drawn together tomorrow. Scottie Scheffler is playing with Brian Harman of Open Championship fame, and Rory's playing with Maverick McNeely, who's a lovely young player as well. Actually, very underrated. Really doesn't have the box office that Rory has, but he's seriously talented. Okay,
now let's talk about the miscuts, because there were some big names, and unfortunately 3 of them were Irish. Give us a sense of the big names that missed the cut.
Well, Shane Lowry, 273s. I mean, nothing is really going right for Shane at the moment. He doesn't really like Shinnecock Hills. I mean, it's a very difficult golf course. Things are going against him these days.
I don't know if Rory likes it either, to be quite honest. I'm not sure. I think he's still a bit iffy about it.
It doesn't suit. It's not his MO, is it? Play for this. It's a real Scottie Scheffler kind of course. In fact, I have a kind of a bad feeling about this Scottie Scheffler. You feel that he's at 5,000 metres, he's in the pack, he's sitting there sort of 3 behind.
I think your exact words were, he's hanging around like a bad smell.
Well, yes. Honestly, you just sort of feel like he's just going to keep on trundling along, making pars and shooting, 270s and win the thing on level par. Who knows?
But
Shane, he fought his way back. He fought his way back and he actually made a double on the 11th. He said it was a kick in the you-know-whats.
And a quote after he finished that kind of summed it up. Golf is just not agreeing with me at the moment, and I'm not enjoying it.
Just not enjoying it.
He's not enjoying it.
He just needs a break somewhere. He just needs a little bit of luck somewhere, or something to go his way. He's had holes in one to beat the band and everything else, but who knows? Anyway, he'll be playing the Travelers, I think, and then heading back home.
Okay,
to get ready for the Open.
Did we mention the miscuts, the other big names?
The other big names missing the cut, I mean, the cut was 4 over in the end. 72 players. Bryson DeChambeau missed the cut.
That's a third successive major that he's missed the cut.
Bryson DeChambeau back to the laboratory. Victor Hovland missed the cut. Ricky Fowler, Patrick Reed, Lowry, as you mentioned.
Patrick Reed was fancied.
Yeah, Patrick Reed was fancied. John Ram, after shooting 68 yesterday, shot 78 today. Couldn't hit an iron shot. Patrick Cantley, Adam Scott missed 100 major, missed the cut, and Brooks Koepka.
Oh, Brooks, you know what? I saw something really interesting. As Rory was walking across to the interview area after his round, Brooks was coming out of the players' lounge with a bag over his back, heading for his car, which was, he was not in good form. Let's put it like that. It's kind of interesting.
And obviously, Padraig and Gray McDowell, Padraig Harrington, Gray McDowell also missed the cut.
Okay, let's finish on a positive note, Brian. I met a very pleasant young Irishman on the back of the 16th tee this morning as I was following Shane, who said he's been enjoying the show. He also said he'd showed it to some American friends who had watched it and said, "What the fuck is this?" Naturally, I thanked him and asked him to keep watching. I said, "Brian needs all the support he can get."
Thanks very much.
We'll see you tomorrow.